back on. For some reason, the computer did not crash, but the whole browser crashed, and we don't know what happened. But we are back on, and we just want to continue. The dragon is wroth when we are trying to expose what is going on, and when we have to flee to the cities, right? So flee to the mountains, flee to the mountains, not flee to the cities. Flee from the cities, from Jerusalem and Judea. Remember, Jesus said, flee from Jerusalem and Judea. So even if you're not in Jerusalem, you still have to, and you're in Judea, you still have to flee to the mountains, right? Okay. And when do you flee to the mountains? When you see the abomination of desolation come. We know that Cestius, the Roman standards, was put up in 66 AD. 3.5 years later, it was Titus that came, right? On the day of Passover, right? And then the temple was destroyed on the 9th of Av, right? The ninth day of the 5th month, and it was burnt down on the 10th day, right? It was burnt down on the 10th day. The thing is that, do we know why the people had a chance to escape the cities, escape Jerusalem, right? Because the armies retreated, right? They came here, and Cestius came here, and Cestius retreated. But why did Cestius retreat? We really don't know why, okay? Right? So, for some reason, Cestius retreated. And the thing about it is, what happened is, the temple was burned on the 10th of Av. This is the 9th day it was destroyed, and the 10th day, the following day, it was burnt. Okay? And right, the story is written down by the historians, right? What was the name? Oh boy, right? But it was written down, and it said that when the temple was destroyed, it was destroyed on what day? What day of the week was it destroyed? It was destroyed on the Sabbath, right? Right? It was destroyed on the Sabbath. Why? Because they were not fighting on the Sabbath, right? And then the priest said, "Okay, everybody retreat to the temple, right? You will be safe in the temple. Don't worry. Don't run to the mountains. You will be safe in the temple." And they were all destroyed in the temple. And the temple was then burned on what day? On the 10th day, right? It is the exact same day that the temple and the time of the Babylonians was also burned, right? On this exact same day, right? Wow. So what does that mean? There has to be some connection, right? And if we study what happened during the time of the Babylonian siege, we will know why the Babylonians backed off. Because the Babylonian had a siege, right? And what did they do? They backed off, right? And as a matter of fact, Jeremiah escaped, right? But then the Babylonians came again, right? And then they burned the city, right? Okay, why did they back off? All right. So we go back to the time of Zedekiah, right? When did the siege begin? Right? We know the siege began in 587 on the 10th day of the 10th month. That's when the Babylonians came. Right? We've done this many times before, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to give you the summary of what happened. Right? Is the 10th day of the 10th day of the 10th month, the siege began. Right? And the siege began. This is the Babylonian siege at the time of Zedekiah. All right, this is the time of the Zedekiah. Right, the last king of the last king of Judea, right? And what happened? Zedekiah decided that he was going to ally with Egypt, right? So Egypt came and tried to help them, right? Tried to help the Jews. I mean, Judah, right? And when Egypt came, what happened to the siege? The siege was broken because the Babylonians retreated. They had a siege, but because the Egyptians came, they back off. So now we see there's a reason why, because it was the Egyptians that came. So the Babylonians backed off, all right? And in vanity of his own wisdom, he turned for help to the Egyptians, right? To the Egyptians. Okay. So this is now that we put this story together, we know for us in the end time, there's gonna be some connection some connection with the Egyptians. Now the Egyptians, we can see that the Egyptians are the descendants of Hagar, right? The Egyptians are, because Hagar was an Egyptian, right? And the descendants of Hagar, right, were the ones that entreated God's people, and the descendants of Hagar is also Ishmael. So there is a connection, right? There is connection with Islam, right? When Islam attacks, Islam is going to attack because of the abomination trying to stand in the holy place, right? So that's why there was God's wrath, right? And that way we will be able to know when to escape, right? There's going to be, for some reason for that we don't know yet, Islam is going to come at that time, and we know that's the last chance for people to escape, right? At that time also, Zedekiah already promised that all the people may release their slaves. Why? Because every 7 years you are supposed to release your slaves, right? Release your slaves. And you are to release your slaves on the first day of the 7th month. So Pharaoh came here, the siege was broken, and you are to release your slaves. But what did they do? Did they release their slaves? No, they decided to not release the slaves. And the release of the slaves is actually a release date, because the slaves are to what? They are to keep their year of rest. It's a rest. They have to rest. Your slaves you have to rest every 7 days. Your slaves have to rest every 7 days. And your slaves have to be freed every 7 years, right? That's the law of God. So they broke the law of God, right? It's the rest day that they broke, right? So God's people, supposed God's people, broke God's commandment for them to let their slaves rest. Okay. All right. You are supposed to have to proclaim liberty, right? Therefore, thus saith the Lord, ye have not hearkened unto me in proclaiming liberty, right? You're supposed to rest. Let your slaves rest right here. Every one to his brother, every man to his neighbor. Behold, I proclaim liberty for you, saith the Lord. To the sword, pestilence, and famine. Oh, wow. Because of that, you are going to get what? If you do not let your slaves rest, if you break God's commandment, what is going to happen to you? You are going to receive the sword, the pestilence, and the famine. Where do you see that? Where do you see the sword, famine, and pestilence? Did Jesus quote this again? In Matthew 24. Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdoms against kingdoms. What is that? That's the sword. And there shall be famines and pestilence. And then after that, you will be persecuted for my name's sake. Right? Right. This is Jesus actually quoted the same thing. What happened at that time will happen again. Right? Will happen again. Okay, so we'll put that on later on, right? We'll put that line on later on, okay? All right. And then the Pharaoh backed off. The arm of Pharaoh, the strength of Pharaoh is broken. So Pharaoh retreated, and after Pharaoh retreated, what happened? The Babylonians came. So the siege resumed. All right, Pharaoh is broken, and the siege was resumed. Okay, and the 9th day of the 4th month, the city was broken. All right, city was broken. Right, the siege came, the city was broken. Right, and at that time, what also happened, according to Jeremiah 52, during the siege, there was a famine, right? Yeah, because you have broken the Sabbath rest, right? You're supposed to let your slaves free, have their Sabbath rest. You did not let them have their Sabbath rest. Now you have to receive the sword. The siege came back, the famine, and the pestilence, right? So we see, right? That's a general concept. Right? Because that's going to happen in our time, right? And then we have that famous quote from the testimonies. You know what's going to happen? God has an issue with God's people in the end time, right? We will see that quote, okay? Right? Because God people will break the Sabbath rest also, right? In this time frame, right? We have to see it in this time frame. What will God's people do in the end time? So the wall was breached on the 9th day of the 4th month, right? And then Nebuzaradan came on the 7th day of the 5th month, and then 3 days later, on the 10th day of the 5th month, right? On the 10th day of the 5th month, they burned the city. The 10th day of Ab, the exact same day that the temple was also burned. All right. So now we have a line here we can use to see, so that we will know when is it that we are supposed to flee. Right? Because the people in that time of the Roman siege, they were able to flee when the Roman siege stopped, right? The Romans backed off for some unknown reason. But when we put that line of what happened during the time of Zedekiah, the time of the Babylonian siege, we can see it is when the Egyptians came, right? That gave them a chance so that they can flee, right? So we can see there's the Egyptians. And then Egyptians we can see is a symbol of Islam, right? But also at that time, God's people will break the Sabbath rest, right? Will break the Sabbath rest. Okay. So we put this together. We understand that this is the end of the 390 and the 40 years of Jeremiah lying on one side and the other side, right? That's the beginning of the siege. That's the beginning of siege. Right there, that's the beginning of the siege. And then we put the abomination of desolation comes. Cestius comes right here. It's the beginning of the siege. And then Titus comes right here, and Nebuzaradan arrives, right? And Nebuzaradan arrives. And then the temple is burned down the 10th day of the 5th month, right? The temple is destroyed, and then it was burned the following day, the same day, the 10th day of the 5th month. It was also burned right here. Okay. So I think from this we can understand that one of the things that we have to watch for the last chance to run away from the cities is when you see Egypt come in, right? Because at that time also, God's people will also start breaking the Sabbath rest, right? Before, and what would this be? This is Sunday law right here, before the Sunday law, right? Okay. And that's 1260 days, right? And that's the Feast of Tabernacles and Passover, all right? And that's one generation, okay? And that one generation also applies for us, right? Okay. This is the quote of Ellen White in Review and Herald, March 18, 1884. The Lord has a controversy with his professed people in these last days. In this controversy, men in responsible positions will take a course directly opposite to that pursued by Nehemiah. They will not only ignore and despise the Sabbath themselves, but they will try to keep it from others. It's professed people, right? The leaders of the professed people will try to keep others from keeping the Sabbath, right? By burying it beneath rubbish of custom and tradition. In churches and in large gatherings in the open air, ministers will urge upon the people the necessity of keeping the first day of the week. There are calamities on sea and land, and these calamities will increase, one disaster following close upon another. And the little band of conscientious Sabbath keepers will be pointed out as the ones who are bringing the wrath of God upon the world by their disregard of Sunday. Wow. So at that time, there's going to be what? Calamities. Okay, calamities. And what kind of calamities here? Natural disasters, right? There's going to be natural disasters at that time, right? And God's professed people will break the Sabbath rest, right? Before the Sunday law, right? And that's why the Sunday law had to be made. This is why the church is actually going to ask for Sunday law. And at that time, there's going to be natural disasters. That's going to be blamed upon the true Sabbath keepers. Okay. Wow. Now we go to the line of Jesus, right? And this is what Jesus said, right? Likewise also as it was in the days of Lot. So now we go to the days of Lot, right? Okay. What do we have to remember? Even thus, as it was in the day when the Son of Man is revealed, in that day he shall be upon the household and his stuff in the house. Let him not come down to take it away, and that he is that in the field, let him likewise not return back. You have to flee to the mountains, just like in the days of Lot. And then remember Lot's wife. Okay, so let's just kind of remember what happened to Lot's wife. Remember what happened to Abraham and Sarah at that time. Now the thing about it is, remember, Abraham and Sarah was the first humans that was told that there's going to be the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. My question is, where were they living? Yeah, they were living in the country, right? They were living in the country. So people who were living in the country was given the message of what is going to happen in the cities. The people in the cities didn't know, right? All right. And then 2 angels came, right? 2 angels came. And why 2 angels? Because it's a second angel's message. You have to come out of the city that's going to be destroyed, right? Yeah. And also because 2 angels pulled out 4 people, right? With their arms, they pulled out 4 people, right? So they came in. 2 angels. And when they came there, right? And the thing about it is, what was the abomination of desolation? What was the abomination in the time of Lot? Think, what was that? Yeah. Well, that's yeah. I was thinking, where's the church and state in the time of Lot? What was the abomination though? When the people, they wanted to know the men wanted to have perform sodomy basically with the angels, right? That's the abomination. To me, that's the obvious abomination at that time. When you see that abomination, you have to know it's time to escape. Yeah? And how many closed doors were there in the time of Sodom and at the time of Sodom and Gomorrah? There were 2 closed doors, right? Yeah. There were 2 closed doors. So one time when he closed the doors, when the people wanted to come in, and then they had to pull the angels to come in, right? Close the doors. And what did the angels warn Lot? We are going to have this city burned. Do you have any other family members, right? You have to warn them, right? So before the destruction of Sodom, there's going to be a warning that has to be given. But the thing about it is, it's given to who? Was it given to the people? It was given to the families of Lot, right? So they given to the family of Lot. But did they all receive it? No, right? They didn't all receive it, right? So that's why when you see Ellen White's vision, remember what Ellen White said? That when the fire came down on Nashville, some of the people says, we knew it was coming. We knew it was coming because somebody had warned them, right? Yeah, but some other people says, wow, you didn't warn us? Some people said, you didn't warn us. But some people already knew. In other words, they were already warned. And during the time of Lot, it was the families that were warned, right? And it was only Lot and his wife and 2 children that left, right? And they left in the nighttime, right? And the sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered Zoar, and the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven, right? So this, you have to run to the mountains. Well, and this time from the story of Lot, we see that they run to the mountains right away. No, they ran to a small city called Zoar. And after that, they went to a cave, right? Correct? So from this line, we see that they have to run before the fire and brimstone came down on the city, right? And the fire and brimstone and came down on the city for us is when? Nashville, right? It's when Nashville comes, right? So we have to be out of the cities before Nashville, right? And then how do we know? There's going to be something to do with Egypt or something to do with Islam that gives us a clue that that is the last chance for us to leave. But should we still be living in the cities even then? Wow, we should be out a long time ago. That's the last chance. You are taking your chances because remember Lot's wife, right? And what happens to Lot? Did he have family members that were left behind? Yeah. That's your risk. You stay in the cities, you're going to still have a problem because some of your family members are not going to come out with you because you have been hesitating, right? I think we should be like Abraham and Sarah, right? We have to be out of the cities long time ago right? Before all these things happen, we should be out already. But there's still a chance for people who are still there, all right? And the good thing, God's merciful to give us all these stories to tell you what to look for, right? For your last chance to come out of the cities. All right. The turning of the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes condemned them with an overthrow, making them an ensample, right? They are an ensample is what? They're a shadow, because what is going to happen to us is going to be real. For them, it was only a shadow, right? The flames that consumed the cities of the plain shed their warning light down even to our time, right? Yeah. The Redeemer of the world declares that there are greater sins than that for which Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed. Those who hear the gospel invitation calling sinners to repentance and heed it not are more guilty before God than were the dwellers in the vale of Siddim. And still greater sin is theirs who profess to know God and keep His commandments, yet who deny Christ and their character and their daily life. Right? There's going to be a big problem, because supposedly professed God's people will do what? Will start keeping Sunday at that time. That's even a greater sin. Right? So when you start seeing these things come, you already know that that's your last chance to leave, right? That's your last chance to leave. But I think we should already be living like Abraham and Sarah. We should, from way back, already be living in the cities, even before these things happen, right? Yeah. Right, you're taking a risk. The thing about it is, I put this slide here. We did this already. We put this slide here because it seems kind of unfair for the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? They were burned, but were they ever warned? Seems because the angels did not warn the people of Sodom and Gomorrah. Yeah? When were they warned? They were. That's right. Yeah. See, the thing is that really caused a problem for me to say, how could God just destroy them without warning them? The other thing is that here, this is one very obvious one here. Remember when Abraham saved Sodom from Chedorlaomer? They were attacked by another city of the Canaanites, and Abraham, with his 1,000, because he had 1,000 people in his company, he actually saved them. And he says, how could this band of nomads come and actually defeat this? There has to be a greater God that he serves, right? And that was when the people of Sodom and all those cities in this plain all learned about God. So they were warned about the God of Abraham, or even before that time. So they were already warned, right? It's not as if they were never warned, because it's impossible for them to be destroyed without them being warned, right? Yeah. Okay. So that is what happened during the time of Lot. So I think we put a few things more to add to what we know, because Sodom and Gomorrah is like Nashville, right? It's like Nashville. It's not like the 7 last plagues. It's like Nashville, right? It's before the Sunday law. Okay, all right, let's go here. Right, go to this part. And Matthew 24, obviously. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of war. That's the sword. Yet, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. And earthquake in diverse places is what again? Ellen White said in early writings. It's actually the powers of the earth being shaken, right? The powers of the earth being shaken, because the powers of the earth are the leaders of the earth that are being shaken because of all these calamities that is happening, right? The calamities that are happening, right? Yeah, make sure that you understand this. And then after that, and then they shall deliver you to be, and then they will deliver you, because then there shall be the Sunday law coming. These things all happen before the Sunday law, right? Because the Sunday law comes after that, all right? And we obviously know Luke has a different take on this, because these things that happen also is like the 7 last plagues that happen after the Sunday law, all right? Okay, but I'm trying to bring the point about the sword, the famine, and the pestilence that is in diverse places, all right? Because we see this happening with the 10 last plagues in Egypt, right? 10 last plagues in Egypt. All right, the 10 last plagues, obviously not including the sign of the serpent, right? The sign of the serpent. And then the blood, frogs, fleas, swarm, and then this is the pestilence. This is the bear, right? The disease of the animals. And then the boils, right? The boils. So this is the diseases, right? That's why we call these the pestilences, because these are diseases. It happens to the animals and to the people. But then you have hail and fire come down from heaven, and it destroyed all the crops, right? And we know that is the sign that's the beginning of when they have to look to the moon, so that they can start figuring out when the barley is ripe, right? It killed all the barley, but the wheat was not killed, right? So it killed the crops, and whatever was not killed by the crops was eaten by the locusts. So what happened? You have nothing to eat. There's nothing. You have famine now, right? And there was darkness, and then the sword of the destroying angel, right? And then the Pharaoh was shaken, right? Because all of these things happened. All these things happened, and he was shaken, and that's why that's the earthquake, right? Okay, so we'll see. We see that these things, the 10 last plagues, happen. We see the pestilence, the famine, and the sword, and the earthquake in diverse places, also in the 10 last plagues. All right. Okay, the thing about it is, which one could the magicians of Egypt copy? Which one of these plagues could the magicians of Egypt copy? All right, this is the thing. Which ones could Satan do wonders with? Which one? Which one could he do in the 10 last plagues? During the 10 last plagues, could he replicate the sign of the serpent? Yes, he actually did, right? What about did he replicate this? Yes. Did he replicate this? The frogs? He replicated the frogs. Satan replicated these things. He did sights and wonders. Okay? You know where I'm trying to get at? Satan did his sights and wonders here, before these things. All right? Okay. But what about this? the third plague. He could not, because this is the finger of God. So Satan should do his miracles here, right? But he could not replicate here. And he could not do any of these other things. Why? Because none of the 7 last plagues fell on Goshen, right? So from here we know where? You have to be in Goshen when? This is your last chance to be in Goshen, right? If you don't want to get any of these last 7 plagues, you have to be in Goshen at this time right here when you see the finger of God. All right? But before that, Satan is doing his right. Yeah, he's doing his wonders and miracles. The signs and wonders Satan is doing here. So you at this time here, when you see the signs and wonders, what should be doing? You should you should be running to Goshen, right? You should be running to Goshen when you see the sights and wonders. Okay? That's why the sights and wonders is Revelation 18 verse 4, or verses 4. When you have to run to the mountains. Ellen White said, when you see Satan doing the sights and wonders is when God's people is being called to come out of Babylon. That's Revelation 18 verse 4, right? Yeah. So the other clue is that Satan is going to start making signs and wonders. That's pretty amazing. And that's one of the clues for the last chance for God's people to run, to be in Goshen, right? To not receive the 7 last plagues. All right? Okay. All right. Where do you see right? Egypt here. Okay. Egypt is Islam. Islam is the locust, right? You see the locust. And God's people, God's professed people who break the law, the Sabbath rest, is like a darkness, right? Okay, can't you see that's a darkness? Right? That's right here. This is Islam, and this is the darkness of God's people, right? Breaking the law of God, right? That's the darkness right there. And then you see the sword, which is the 10th plague, and then the earthquake in diverse places. All right? Okay. So, based on Review and Herald, 1906, right? When you see the buildings of New York fall, you know it's the fulfillment of Revelation 18 verse 1 to 3, right? No, 1 to 3, right? From 1 to 3, right? And then Ellen White says, yeah, Satan will be working sights and wonders during the time that the people of God are to be called out of Babylon, right? Right. Satan will be making his sights and wonders. And what kind of sights and wonders that he will do? He will try to even bring fire from heaven. He will work as a false medical missionary. All these sights and wonders you have to see. That's during the time that people are to come out, right? And they are to come out. So the magicians of Egypt, they did their sights and wonders when? Yeah, during the sign of the serpent and the first 2 plagues, right? You have to know that during that time, you know that you have to be in Goshen, because the number 4 to number 10 is not gonna, the 4th to the 10th plague is not gonna fall in Goshen, right? So when you see those signs and wonders of Satan, right? That's when you are to be called out of Babylon. You have to be called out of Ramses, right? The cities of Ramses, the cities of Egypt, right? And you have to be in Goshen. You have to flee from Jerusalem and Judea, right? Okay. We are now where? We are living in Revelation 18 verse 4, because Revelation 18 verse 5 to 7 is the fulfillment of the balls of fire, right? The balls of fire that comes down because the wrath of God of those who believe in Satan, right? Those who believe in Satan, Satan will actually deceive them so that he will say that he is come down to earth to change what? Sabbath to Sunday, right? And now people will believe Satan. And because of that, what happens? The wrath of God comes, right? This is the wrath. So this wrath comes because of the people believing that they have to start making a Sunday law, right? Because he is deceiving the people that he's changing Sabbath to Sunday. He's saying he's saying he's Christ now, right? Okay. And the earth does that too. And Copenhagen is also receives the balls of fire, right? Balls of fire. Okay. So now we know the clues of when the last chance, right? Last chance to leave the cities. When you see the signs and wonders of Satan, right? When you see Islam doing something, so that it actually causes a famine, right? All this time we're always talking about what right now? Pestilence. But are we seeing the famine? It's right. It's gonna come, right? The thing about it is we're all what inundated with pestilence right now, right? And there's gonna be a problem with famine, right? All these natural disasters is going to cause a shortage of supply. There's, you know how they say is the supply chain is broken, right? You know, for some reason, there's got to be some sort of thing happening that the supply chain is even becomes more broken. If it's broken, how could it become more broken? With Islam coming for some reason, it has to be, because it will cause a famine, and the famines start when the trucks cannot deliver their what to the groceries. That's the supply chain, right? So something disrupts that. Natural disasters, right? Natural disasters is the hail and the fire that come from heaven, right? And the locust cause economic damage. So I know that we talk about the pestilence, but we have to know that we have to see these things that happening with natural disasters and supply chain disruption to the point of famine, right? And all these things become like become so compelling that the people who are keeping the Sabbath are being blamed for it. So that the Constitution has to be changed so that Sunday law will be made into effect, right? Even before those things happen, you have to be in the country already. That's in the future. You have to be in the country even before that, right? Just think of it. Abraham and Sarah was in the country already, right? Before the angel went down to Lot. All right. Okay. So let's, this is the conclusion here, right? So when you see the abomination of desolation stand in a place where you ought not to be, It should not be standing, right? You have to run to the mountains because, the destruction of Jerusalem will come and the city is going to be overrun. It's going to be sieged and overrun. The wall's going to fall. And the wall's going to fall means what? What does the wall are going to fall? What does the wall stand for? What is the significance of wall? Law, right? The Sunday law is going to come, right? This is the image of the beast test. This is the image to the beast test. So this is the Sunday law here, right? The wall's going to come down. And then not one stone going to be on top of another stone, right? Right. Okay. We know that that's Sunday law. All right. And we know another clue is that Egypt or Islam is going to cause something. It's like the locust, right? Islam is going to, that's a clue. We have to know that's like your last chance. Because when Egypt came, what? The Babylonians retreated. Yeah? They stopped their siege. And Jeremiah had a chance to flee. He actually fled. Right? He had a chance to flee. Okay, and then also at that time, what do you see? Sabbath rest is broken, right? God's professed people will go into darkness, right? By that time, you know that Sunday law is just right around the corner, okay? All right. Now we put the 10 last plagues, the 10 plagues of Egypt, right? All right, this is the Satan can replicate these. Satan can do signs and wonders here, right? And what else? What do you see here? That's the pestilence, and this is the famine, and this is the sword, and this is the earthquake in diverse places, right? Right. Okay. Where do you see fire down coming from heaven? In the 10 last plagues. Where do you see fire coming down from heaven? Right here. You see that, right? There's hail and fire coming down from heaven, right? Doesn't that line up where Nashville? Fire down coming from heaven right here. Right? Because Nashville happens before Mandela, right? All right. Nashville comes down here. And when does Satan do his signs and wonders? Before Nashville. That's Revelation 18 verse 4. Where do you see him doing his signs and wonders? Right here, right? He's doing his signs and wonders right here. Even trying to bring down fire from heaven. Right. This is the last chance. Right here would be the last chance for people to run away from the... You can't be waiting for the Sunday law. You can't be waiting for... Wow. You know, I had I just realized I should have put up the line of Joseph here, right? The line of Joseph in Genesis 47 says, gives us a clue as to when money will fail. Money will fail right here because this is the economic, right? All the supply chains will be broken, right? Can you wait for this to happen before you run to the cities? No, you can't. You have to be there. Because why? All these things will not fall on Goshen. All of these plagues will not fall in Goshen. You have to be in Goshen here already. Right? You know all these things are going to come. It's already there. It's line upon line. Right? The amazing thing that we just did not realize is that Satan does his signs and wonders here. Right? Right at this time. Okay. What about... Yeah, like we used to... We put this at 9/11 here. So we are living right here. We are probably living right here right now. So obviously we're here. But Satan's already working right now. For us that have been studying prophecy, this is 9/11, right? Yeah. Yeah. This is But this is the thing that we did not realize. Yeah. After studying and putting all this together, now we can see the sights and wonders that Satan actually can bring miracles, right? Even right here. Oh boy. We have to be looking out for it. We can't be, we are living it in this time now. Mm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Especially with this pestilence going on right now, there's gonna be a lot of miracles, signs and wonders. Signs and wonders being replicated by Satan falls right here. Well, we know that, he's gonna make people sick, right? And then he's gonna take his hand off of them and say, it's a miracle, right? He's gonna impersonate a medical missionary. Mm. Oh, laying hands. Miracle healing, huh? Mm. Yeah. So where do you put Lot and his wife escaping? So where does Lot and his wife escape? This has got to be the fire that come down on Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Right. So Lot and his wife are already in Zoar here, right? So we know when they arrived in Zoar, it was when the fire came down, right? So they had to leave before, right? Right. They have to leave right here. So everything lines up. Everything should line up here, right? Everything should line up. We know, but we can't wait. This is the last chance. This is the last chance for people to leave, right? We should be like Abraham and Sarah already, living in the country, right? Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. See, that's the thing about the pestilence, and I can't believe how people are talking about the supply chain being compromised now. That's exactly what's going to cause the famine. Yeah, the supply chain being right. Okay. Absolutely. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is going to happen. All right. But we should be secure in our places in Goshen. All right. Yeah. All right. And that is a more sure word of prophecy.